Hi, I'm Barbara Thornton Hill. I just want you to know that this is my 5th attempt to record this demo. It's a learning curve for sure. Anyway, I'm here to teach the hydrangea flowers and plants that go with the Name Make It's kit, the London flower cart. And this kit was made by Susan Carachis and Pam Ridgely, her daughter. If you want any of the flowers, the flower kits, just the flower kits, you can always order them at Susan's website at Susan Carachis, no, at sdkminiatures.com. And if you, I don't even know if the London Flower Cart kit is still available, but you might be able to still get it through Name. Look in your gazettes. Okay. I'm going to talk for a minute. We did have a session last week about colors, getting your petals and things colored. So I'm going to switch over now to the other screen where my camera can show you things, and then we'll go on. Okay, this will take a minute because I never can remember the order of things, but we will get there. Okay, I think I need to share screen. Oh, I got it. There it is. I think I'm there, and I think I should be up in the corner. At least I can see myself up in the corner. What I want to show you first is that, first I have to tell you what I did. Last week, I showed you in the coloring discussion that I had painted all the blue petals for these hydrangeas. And guess what? This week I lost the petals and I've looked everywhere. I have no idea what I did with them. So I have to order more. So I'm going to be only demonstrating with the green petals. You have 2 different colors of hydrangeas you're going to be making, and the technique and tools and materials are the same for both. It's just, I can't do the blue today because who knows what I did with it. Anyway, so I took my sheet. Now I've already punched out my petals. So I'm just showing you the sheet after I've punched out the petals because I just want to go over. I colored all these flowers while in the sheet with, I used Copic markers. You can also use paint, but the Copic markers I used, I sent a list out, this is Celadon Green. And then right after I colored them all, I took the color blender, which is alcohol based, and I used the pointer end, and I went right in the center of every petal and held it there until the green it made it white in the middle and the green kind of went out to the ends of the petals. So that turned out fine. If you're painting, you had to use a thin down paint, and you used a white. You painted these petals white. You make the flowers white, and then after they're made, you just brush a little bit of lime green color paint on the edges of the petals, just the tips of the petals. So it's just a slightly different depending. I am today going to demonstrate, I'm doing half-inch scale, the half-inch scale kit. And so I'll be demonstrating on half-inch scale flowers. The techniques and the process are all the same for half-inch and 1-inch. I am not real sure about 1/4 inch, but watch it because it may be the same. I have to check with Paula and maybe some of you who've already done it, I don't know. But I forgot to do that. So it will be close. Oops, I've got paint on my fingernails already. All right. Now, I want to talk about a few other tools that I prefer to use. Now, you're told you've got a list of tools and things in your kits. I really like for tweezers, curved tweezers. Not everybody likes to use curved tweezers, and I guess it takes some time to learn to use them, but I learned to use curved ones early on when I first started doing flowers in the early 90s. And so I've just used them always. But straight tweezers are just fine also. What you want to be sure, whatever kind of tweezer you have, you've got to be sure that this point meets tightly at the end. Sometimes, like if I drop these tweezers, and I've done it with many pair, if I drop them or something, the ends will bend, and then there will be a little opening here and they won't close tightly. And that is not what you want when you're making flowers. You need to be able to grasp just the very tiniest tip of a petal or a leaf to do this. So be sure your tweezers are tightly close right at the very tip where you're going to put them on there, or you're going to have a lot of trouble. The other tool I use is a stylus. The one I'm using today is the smallest one, I think. Well, it's the smallest one I have. I think there is one even tinier than this, but if you're doing 1 inch, you'll probably need one a little slightly bigger, but you don't want a really big one like this for to make a hydrangea plant or a hydrangea flower. You need a small tip. If you're doing quarter scale, you'll definitely want the tiniest tip you can get. And if you're doing 1 inch, you could probably do it a little bit bigger. You'll see when we do the technique of curling them, why that would be important to have a small one. I also often find a needle tool handy. Here and there, I end up using it. So I always keep one of those handy. And otherwise, oh, here's another stylus just to show you. You see the size of that ball at the end as compared with this one. You can get styluses on the internet. You can get them in craft stores. So you do not want this big one for this particular plant. And they're all double-ended. They have a ball on each end. So there's usually a smaller ball on one end and a larger one on the other. But this one, even the small one, is too big for this. What else did I have here? Oh, I wanted to show you. I put my glues. When I do flowers, I use 2 glues. I use a crazy glue, a quick grab. I use, particularly I like Zap-A-Gap. Oh, dropped the whole bottle. There, Zap-A-Gap. You cannot get it at Joann's or Michael's, or I don't even think Hobby Lobby. I have to go usually on the internet. Get a Young carries it and she sells it, or I go to a train store. A lot of train stores have this. Or your hardware store doesn't have Zap-A-Gap, but they might have Loctite or just super glue, and those will work well too. The top to stick on there. All right, so I like to use bottle caps. These are Coca-Cola caps. I drink a lot of Diet Coke, so I use the tops of bottles. You can use water bottle tops. You can use any kind of tops. But I use them. I use one for my crazy glue and one for my white glue. You can use regular tacky, or you can use, I'm using Elmer's because my regular tacky seems to be a little old and too thick. I was trying it earlier and it just was too thick. So I just refilled that. So the thing with the white glue is, if you're working for quite a while, it will tend to film over on the top and get a skin. Take that skin off to get to the thinner glue. And when your glue gets thick, just empty it and put fresh glue in. Tacky glue, Elmer's glue, it's all relatively quite inexpensive, and don't mess around with really thick glue. It's just, it makes it too hard, and you don't want big globs of glue on your flowers and plants. All right, I think, oh, one other thing I wanted to show you, yes, is the spools. I did show last week in the session these. I make these with just, it can be a tongue depressor, a piece of wood, and craft spools, which you can get in the hobby stores, any of the hobby stores, wherever they have the little uh, woodsies, the round wood, the discs of wood or the little balls of wood, the little wood beads, usually they're hanging on a rack and they usually have spools and you can use all kinds of sizes. You don't want them too big, but you don't want them too small either. And what I did is I filled the centers with styrofoam, the kind that you use for plants, for real flower arrangements, the kind you can get wet, but you don't want it wet, but you can just stick it in there and fill these up. It helps hold the stems in, because otherwise, if you just stick the stems in to dry, if you tip it over, they'll all fall out. So I just do that so they'll stay in there. All right, so I do use that. Then I have, this is yellow, is a mouse pad. That's a really good thing to have to work with flowers, because when you're curling your petals, you can curl them on there. Or I have this piece of, this is fun foam, which you don't even look at the glue spots I got on my mouse pad, but this is fun foam, and you can get it at some craft stores. This happens to be 1/4 inch thick. I like the 1/4 inch better than the 1/8 inch or the thinner stuff, or 16th inch. The 1/4 inch is better. Sometimes the petals will stick in these, and I'll show you that in a minute, because I actually like that for doing the little petals for the hydrangea plants. Okay, I think I've gone over all the tools now. Let me look. I have a list here of what I want to talk about. Okay, we're going to start with a stem out of your kit and a bead. Now, this is a 1/2 inch scale kit, so my bead is smaller than the 1 inch bead and larger than the 1/4 inch bead. But however you do it, you've got your 2 glues here. This is really handy. The reason for 2 glues is the crazy glue gives it a quick grab, to what you're gonna, because you're gluing really tiny things to two really tiny things, and so you want a quick grab. The white glue keeps it still a little pliable, but it will stick with the crazy glue, and then the white glue can dry and be a more permanent hold and not as brittle as the crazy glue. So I'm going to take my stem, watch this, see what I am, and I'm going to dip it, the tip of it, and get about, maybe 1/8 of an inch, not quite 1/8 of an inch, glue bead on the end of it, white glue, and then I'm just going to dip that quickly into the crazy glue, and I will stick it in the hole in the bead. And there you are. So that's what you need to do first, is put the bead on all your stems, and then stick them in your holder, whatever you're using. It can be just styrofoam, it can be one of these. You need something to stick these in to dry. So I'll just let it sit there to dry. Next is your little tiny petals, preparing them for gluing. Now, as you can see, these are really tiny. They'll be a little bit bigger. They don't show as well on the yellow, so I'm putting them on the brown here. So they were in here, like that. And if you take the larger ball on your stylus, now you are using the larger one, and you just push through, it will pop it out. But that way you don't have to mess with finding where it's attached to the paper and all, and it will just pop out. And then you'll have it there to work with. You're going to take that little petal You put it on your mouse pad or your foam pad and your tiny end of your stylus, and you're going to go like this, just kind of round and round on it until it curls around the end of that stylus, and get it as tight of a curl and a cup as you can with these. Okay, see how that's cupped around? I don't know if you can see, but it's cupped around there. And so I got that. However, this is where I like the foam one because I can get a much tighter cup. As I do that, and then I poke it down in, and it kind of will go down in, and it will kind of stay there. And then I go and make, and I do this to all my petals. This is assembly line kind of thing. You do it to all your little petals, and you get them like that, and then poke it down in and let it sit there a little bit. Now this is why people don't like the foam pad, because it will let it go in. The other pad won't. The mouse pad will not let it go down in like that. But I like that for this particular petal because I do want a tiny, very tight cup. And so then I can pull it out. I have to pull it out though with tweezers. Now that one kind of flared open. Now this one's a nice cup. That made a nice cup. This is one I have that's already a good cup. This one didn't do too well, so I'm going to put it back in again. And then, ugh, it broke. See, this is the thing. It broke. One of the little corners broke off. So you have to be careful not to push too hard or you will break off petals. So you have to play with it a bit. So I have a whole bunch of these over here that I've already done because I didn't want to have you sit while I just curled all these thousands of petals. It takes a lot. So you want to do all those. Now, by now, if you have used both the crazy glue and the white glue, this is dry enough to work with. If you just used white glue, you may need to let them dry a little longer. But the crazy glue will now stay there. So the way I do this is where your tight tweezers at the tip are very important because these are so tiny and you've got to just take one little corner of it. And I dip the bottom of it into the white glue, just a little, and then just slightly into the crazy glue. And then I can stick it on the ball. And I start at the bottom, right next to where the bead and the stem go together. And I start one at a time. This is where making flowers is tedious and fiddly. And I put them all, and making hydrangeas is very fiddly. And I put them all around the base here. So you can even use some of the kind of broken ones they won't show later. Bringing them over, grabbing. Now, your tweezers, the tips of your tweezers are going to get glue on them. So what you do is you just poke them in to this fun foam and it cleans them off. You don't have to stop and scrape them off. And I was told by one very excellent flower teacher, never sand the glue off of your tweezers because it roughens your tweezers. So only clean them with an X-Acto knife, scrape it off with an X-Acto knife, or do this with the fun foam, you know, if it all comes off. But sometimes it's too much and then I have to use the knife. But I always remember that. Don't use, it's still sticking. Don't use sandpaper on the ends of your tweezers. So I go round and round and keep filling this space in on this bead with these petals. Can you see? It's hard to see, but you see it's at the bottom. And eventually, when you cover the whole bead, then you will have a flower that looks like this. Well, it's very white. It's not as white as that, but yeah. Okay. So you eventually, so you have to do that one little petal at a time all over this bead. So it does take some time to do hydrangeas. They're not the easiest or the fastest to do. Excuse me, I'm finding things on. So, questions? Well, we'll have questions at the end of this video. Okay. I'm going to put that finished one. See, it was magical how I went from just a couple to finished, wasn't it? That's some of the tricks. All right. Now that we have our flower finished, we're going to think about leaves. Now you're going to take your leaves. There are two sizes of leaves in your kit. I colored them with moss green. There are large ones and there are small ones. When you take them off, you have to be careful to try and get this stem. Oh wait, it's not showing. Eek, I'm off the grid. Hold on. Okay. See the stem here on your leaf. Try to get those stems to come off. So cut with scissors along the very bottom edge of those stems so they'll all fall out of the sheet. Now this one, somehow I lost the stem. I'll still use it, but it won't be as easy to attach without a stem. And this one too, I have a few that don't have stems. I don't know how I did that. Don't even ask me. I don't know. And then you also have smaller leaves, and they have stems too. So keep them separated. We're going to use only the larger leaves on our flower. We're going to save these smaller leaves for, because we're making, I forgot, 7 stems of just leaves. So, and I think you're ending up with like 5 green flowers and 7 blue or something like that. I counted them and now I can't remember what the numbers were, but it's something like that. So there's a lot of flowers to make. And I'm not going to sit here and make you watch me do it because it will take all day and you'll all want to work on your own. But what I am going to show you is with these leaves, I have already gotten these out of my thing, out of my, the paper, out of the main paper they were in. And I cut along bottoms. I took scissors and cut along the bottoms of these stems so that they would just fall out and I didn't have to do any more. So you're going to take each one of these and with your tiny point on your stylus, you are going to go from the stem to the tip, right down the middle, and just run it down there. And what you'll find is your leaf will kind of curl. You see how that curled? And it curled and it cupped. Then you're going to turn it over to the back side, and this little stem you want pointed up on the back side. You want it pointed at right angle to the back. So I did that. Okay. So it looks like, do you see that? Can you see that little stem there? Oh, I can't hold it close. Tweezers, you're very sharp, but okay. Can you see that? All right. Then, so I did that to all of my leaves. And I want to tell you where I stored them. I took a box. I thought, remember the discussion that's been on some of the groups about the peel and press and seal paper, plastic wrap that you use in the kitchen? Well, I wrapped this box with it, with the sticky part out, and I just put these on top of it after I'd done this, curled them and everything, put them right upside down on there, and they stick to it and they don't go flying everywhere. So even, well, maybe if I sneezed they would, but I could cough a little bit or breathe without them going everywhere. Do not breathe or cough or anything while working on these plants and flowers, or you are going to be in trouble. Same thing for the tiny leaves. You're going to get the right side of them. Run that stylus right down the middle. Turn them over. And bend that, you can bend it back by, I just can do this and it will bend back also. Okay, and then I've got another one, okay? So I have them separated on top of my thing upside down. So when I'm ready to put my leaves on, I've got them all already creased. And do it one more, I'll do it to one more leaf because I want you to remember this. So on the right side of your leaf, you take your stylus and run it down the center from the stem to the point, or sort of a point, and then you turn it over and bend that stem back. Okay? So we are going to attach these to our stems with just that little tiny stem on the leaf, and that is very tricky. So now I am going to take my flower that is already done, and I'm going to put a couple of some leaves on it. Okay, I'm dipping just this little stem down here into the white glue, then just a tiny drop into the other glue. Oops, and then I drop it and get it all over my pad. And then I am going to stick it on my stem, on my, of my flower. That stem is all that's holding that on there. Oops, wait, where's the camera? Why is it not? Oh, okay. All right, you see how it is? You can use your tweezers to clamp it a little bit on there. And then this petal should be at a right angle, almost right angle to the stem of the flower. Can you see that? On this ½ inch, I'm putting it about maybe 1/8 of an inch down from the flower. It's probably a little further down on a 1 inch and probably closer up to the flower in 1/4 inch. Read your directions. She tells you about how far apart these leaves should be. Now I'm going to put another petal right straight across from it, so it will come out perpendicular to that stem on the other side. I dip it in the white glue. Just get some white glue on it. Dip it into the crazy glue, just a dot, and then I'm going to get it so you can see. It's a little awkward because I'm having to do it in front of the camera, but there. So you see how that is? There's a little bit of glue showing, but I'm not going to mess with it too much because I'll just knock it off. If you end up with a wad of glue showing that you don't like, and if it doesn't dry clear, you can take a little paint and just paint over it, and it won't, you'll never notice. Okay? So that is one on each side. Now, the next set, you're going to put 6 leaves on this flower, on each flower. So the next one goes the opposite direction. And it's about another 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch down the stem. So I'll put it there. Oops. Yeah, I got it a little crooked. I have to use my tweezers to get it totally in place because I don't want these stems to be sticking out everywhere. There, clamp it on. All right, so there's that one coming out that side. This one's coming up, that one's going down, and now this one's coming out this side. The next one's going out straight across on the other side. You know you can't see it. I can't do it in a different direction. Okay. So now I have a set of leaves. They're supposed to be opposite. Move that up a little bit. It's very fiddly, guys. Sorry, a little more glue. And remember that your glue will probably dry clear. Let's see what I did. I got, oh, there. All right, I gotta clean my tweezers. They've got lots of glue in them. All right, now. All right. We'll go back and check that in a little bit because as it dries, it'll become clearer. As I know I'm seeing a glob of glue there. Now I'm going to put one more set of leaves on here, and they are going to go the same direction as the first set. Same direction as the first set. So you have 6 leaves on each stem of their flowers. This is where my needle tool is going to come in because I'm going to take some of that glue out of there. Ooh, I'm not getting it out. All right, take it off. Take the glue off. I can see I'm going to have to go back in with some green paint and paint this over this, but it will be fine. Just need a green that's the same color as the stem or close to it. Probably some kind of avocado green would work just fine. There. I got way too much glue on there. All right, so even in the demo, you can screw up. You see that? All right, now we'll put this back on there again. Finally got it on. Same direction as the first one. Remember in making flowers, I don't remember if I said this, flowers are not perfect in nature. They're never perfect. And there's never 2 that are exactly the same. So your flowers do not have to be perfect. They have to be close, close to good. But I mean, they don't have to be exact. So if one is tiny bits below the other, one leaf is tiny bit below the other, or a tiny bit above, or whatever, that is not the end of the world. Now, if it has 1/4 of an inch between them, it's pretty big gap when you're doing little things like this. But all right, I'm sorry, I can't, it's very awkward for my hands to get this in the position where you can see what I'm doing. I wish that a lot easier in person to watch a demo. There. I'm gonna let that dry. After it dries, I will be able to move those more and position them. But they're supposed to be at right angles to the stem. And it doesn't look bad. That's one of your flowers. Okay, now I am not doing all the flowers, as I said, because that will take us all day. What I will do is one stem of, where is it? I gotta get a stem. We're going to do a stem with just leaves because she says you need, I think she said 7 stems of leaves only. You're going to use 2 small leaves that you have already, put the crease down and all that. You're going to use 2 small leaves and 4 large leaves for a stem of leaves. And what you're going to do here is you are going to dip this. You're going to put the glue on the back of the stem on this first leaf, on the back, not the front like we did with the others. And you're going to put it on the very top of the stem. And then put a little dot of glue on the very top of the stem here and push that leaf over to the other side so it covers the tip of the stem. That way you don't see wire when you look at it. I finally figured out what she meant in her directions for this. So that's what you're going to do. See, I glued it to this side and then I bent it back over to the other side. Because the next leaf, it's going to be a little one again, is going to go opposite that. But this leaf, we're going to put the glue on the front of the stem, on the front of the leaf, not the back, just the front. See? And that one's going to go right over the stem that I already put on there. So we've done it like this with the 2 little leaves. Now when that dries, we're going to push those leaves up. But right now I'm letting it dry. They're not going to stay like that. In fact, I'm going to let them sit here for just a minute. This is very fiddly and it's hard to see. You need really good light. You need no glare. You're going to have to, do a couple of flowers, do a couple of leaf things, and do something else, and then come back to it. Because after a while, I just can't even hardly see what I'm doing, Okay, I'm hoping it's dry enough now. All right, so I'm going to take these 2 leaves that we put on here, and I'm going to, with my fingers, push them up. So they do that, right? Straight, almost straight up. Now the next 2 leaves are going to go on each side about 1/8 of an inch down and down the thing, down the stem, but on the opposite side. But they're not going to go straight out like we did with the flowers. They are also going to be pushed up. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. with doing a video with no questions right here. I'm sure you're probably having a million questions. Okay. So I'm going to put some glue on there. This one's going to go on this side. It's really hard to get it right on the stem. And then plant it, and then it turns, and then I have to play with it. Get it back. Be careful if you're using crazy glue not to glue your finger to the wire. I just did. Okay, get another stem, get another leaf, I mean. Bend that back a little. These don't have to be bent back as far because we're going to be pushing these all up towards the top. If you look at your directions, she has a really good picture of a leaf stem. I have to say hers look better than mine, but not too far. Gotta hold it there a minute until it, okay, so I've got those two leaves opposite each other. Let them dry for a minute. Well, I'm not gonna let them dry for a minute. I'm just gonna let them sit there. And I'm gonna put two more leaves on perpendicular to those leaves like we did on the other one, on the flower. But we're not gonna leave them sticking out like this. They're just on there like this for now. See, my white glue is getting too thick. It's already getting a skin on it, so it's hard to get it on here. So it's time for me to get rid of that skin and try to get to the softer glue underneath, which I will do right now. So I just take this and kind of take that, see how it moves. I don't know if you can see that, but you must know what I mean. It's just kind of gets stiff over the top. So I just scrape it off, put it on a tissue or a paper towel in the garbage. And now I've got the softer glue again. One more leaf. Oh, this is so exciting. We're getting down to the final steps. Blue. This one goes opposite. Okay, so I have these two little ones at the top. Let me see if I can show you. Okay, the two little ones at the top that I poked up. Then I have two sticking out here. And then I have two sticking out down here. And as soon as they're dry enough for me to touch, and without knocking them off, I'm going to push them all up and try to get them, they make more of a, more of a thing like this. And that's how your leaves look. She's got a really good picture in the directions of that. See this picture here. And this is a really good picture of, these pictures are of how the leaves go on the flower stems. So you have that on your directions to refer to. Okay. Now, what we're going to do with these plants later, we will have assembly of the baskets and the flowers. So I'm going to let these dry. I'll make the rest of my plants and flowers. I've already made quite a few. And you make yours, and then Paula's going to address assembly of the baskets later. Okay, I'm going to turn the video off and hope it worked, because I'm not doing this a sixth time. I may just have to do this live if it doesn't work this time. Okay, we'll have questions.